I miss the white noise.
You can always turn it on if you want. Right there. We got 2 people watching. There's 3. Hey guys, what's going on? How's everybody tonight? I guess since we're all doing, you know, rod building stuff, we're not partying for St. Patrick's Day, huh?
Hi, my name is Peter and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi. My name is Peter. So we're just gonna kind of give it just a few minutes to let everybody join. Less repeating that way for you guys. I know. My back's been hurting. Probably from having to sit over that.
You need
rack.
to lower your seat.
This is where I'm like, I can see the top of it. Quit waving it around. You will mess it up. Hey everybody. Happy St. Patty's Day. Woohoo.
Did you see what happened to this guide?
Mm-mm.
Well,
Making a Chinese finger toy with that. That's funny. All right, so let's get started. Okay, thread tension. I get asked that every day by I don't know how many people. It is one of the hardest things to describe and explain, but I can definitely show you the extremes of what not to do and what works for me. So that's the reason why we decided to do this video. And also tension coming off of how your tape anchors are on there, or like, you know, where you start and stop your threads. That's actually really important, especially the angles and stuff, because no matter how well you wrap it, if you're not coming off of your tape arbors, not necessarily perfectly, but then if you're doing it wrong, you're going to have issues right here in the beginning of the wrap where it's getting loose, or it's just screwing up. You can't pack it, so you end up jabbing back a little bit more than you originally planned. So all that's pretty important when it comes to decorative wraps. You can be really awesome at them, but feel like you suck because of what's going on down here. And no matter if you start getting loose threads all the way throughout the wrap, which will happen, especially if you're doing closed wraps, you'll lose the whole thing when you go to tie it off. Ask me how I know. All right, so 3 different wraps here. Really honest to God, just threw these things down. So much so that this first pattern, I don't even know what happened on the layout, and I don't really care. It's just for demonstration purposes. They were all supposed to be 4-axis chevrons, but this guy over here decided somehow to get like 6 axes on him. I don't really even know what's happening. Don't care. So we're going to start with the most extreme, which is going to be the too tight scenario. So can you focus the camera, sir? Whoa. What are the chances of that happening? Okay. All right, so going on down here, I wrapped this extremely tight. It's been a while. It was really hard for me to remember that I was trying to screw it up. So that's been interesting today. I did not pack. I did not straighten. I did nothing. I put down however many threads that was and just kept going. So I'm going to show you what happens whenever you do too tight of threads. You're going to start over here. Now, I don't know if you guys can really see it on the camera or not, but over here where I'm coming off of this lifted popsicle stick and sticking out here, this thread's going to continue to keep getting stretched and pushed down. This whole section will come loose because of how it's coming off of here. Like I said, I did it really quick. I wasn't overly careful about this. The other thing you guys might say is, well, why don't you just tape over the popsicle stick? You can do that, but I'd advise against it. And all the times that I've done decorative wraps, especially when I'm doing closed ones, by the time that I get to the part where I'm cutting this off, even with me putting it back here, the tape has crawled forward. So when I go to cut it off, I can't see where the popsicle stick ends. Sucks. So I always leave it hanging out. You just don't want to come off of it like this in this example. So don't do that. So let's go to try to move these threads. I'm going to go all the way back up here. Woo. Okay, so that's a typical thing that's going to react whenever you're going to pack threads that are too tight. They're going to want to pop back out. This is supposed to be... I am struggling to get that to slide. Woo! Yep. If you are popping threads a lot, this would be why. This is way too tight. You see how bad that is skipping? The threads aren't even wanting to, they're not even wanting to cooperate. Where is the mud hole packing tool? Have you seen it lately? Yes.
Mm-mm.
Oh. I just want to see something. Nope. Yeah. So let's pretend that you really were trying to get this thing packed and you were going through all this. This would aggravate the bejesus out of me because these threads are just not wanting to behave. Usually, this is what's going to happen when you're trying to pack them. They're going to be fighting you the whole time, especially whenever I've laid them out like I would with my normal tension. And they just do not want to. Well, it doesn't help that my hand is skipping a lot too. Let's try this side. Yep. You'll start popping threads. So if you're popping 5 or 6 or more threads in every wrap, or you're dealing with this kind of behavior from the thread, cut it off. Remember what you did on that last time. You can tell over here, even on the tape, how much tension has been put on this thing because it's cutting into the tape. It's leaving, all of this is ridged more so than it's just, I mean, like that's cutting into it. So, and even with this being pulled too tight, the more I keep going here, the more this section over here, you see how loose it is? That will continue to keep loosening up, and this whole section right here will get screwed up. Huh?
Popsicle stick. Why?
Popsicle stick, because I always tape the popsicle stick to the grip and or the blank with painter's tape. Painter's tape is very important. Masking tape works, but you're going to have all that little residue that's left all over it, and if you're still taping to a grip, whether it be cork or EVA or whatever, it's going to leave little bits of nasty on it. So I just went to painter's tape, leaves no residue, put the double-sided sticky tape over top of the painter's tape, make sure it doesn't touch the blank, or you'll have a mess afterwards. And when I go to cut this off to tie it off, I can just cut straight down into the popsicle stick. I can remove this all at once, and I don't have to worry about cutting into the blank. Because you can't really cut double-sided duct tape easily. But I use less tape this way. So it just kind of works out that way. Now, double-sided sticky tape, if you're not used to using it, the more you touch it, it will continue to lose its stuff, but it eliminates piling it up to here because every once in a while you run it, the masking tape does not hold thread very well. It sucks for me, so I just stopped doing it. All right, so in the middle, I'm not even going to move forward with that because obviously you guys can tell that that is way too tight.
Sorry, guys.
All right, in the middle, I tried to wrap way too loose. And the big word there is try, because I was catching myself out of habit correcting myself, and that was so. All right, let's say it's too loose. Okay, so we start over here, and you see already this is the same tension I was using trying to pack over there. Trying to keep it from. All right, so it's easily packed at this point. You can keep going, and you know it's sliding around. Okay, so you really wouldn't have any problems with it initially. But you see how these other threads over here, whenever I go to push them, these threads,
Hold on.
actually those.
Trying to get it in focus, guys.
Sometimes you have to back off of it. I didn't do it there.
It's moving too fast for it to focus.
You need to try to slow it down. Split it down the middle. It can be too wide on small diameter blanks. What can be too wide? I'm confused. If you're finishing, oh well, yeah. Use whatever. Somebody that's in the group uses a toothpick. I'm like, that is some exact cutting, is what that is. I would never be able to find the toothpick under all this stuff. All right, so as I'm trying to pack this and get this side situated, I'm pretty sure that I didn't do this loose enough to show them what I needed to show them. There it is. So we're going to focus on this guy right now, but I do have to pull some tension off of him. Okay. All right, so you see as I go to pack that, it starts to... You're going to have to hold your hand steady. Is it focused yet?
Focus, damn it. Okay.
We good?
I know.
Somewhat. You looking at this one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so when I went to push this side in, it made this side skip out. I'm going to go and see. It keeps happening. All right, now the more you get, now you can come back here and you can push it forward, absolutely. But unless, the more you get into this, you guys know that when you pile thread on top of thread, whether it's in the wrap or it's over here on the tape anchors, that the thread stretches. It naturally has a little bit of stretch to it. It only is going to stretch so much. So if it gets stretched too tight, it will pop. If it gets stretched and then it gets relaxed, moved back into its position, it will start to bubble up and do some funky stuff. This isn't nearly as loose. Now, usually with it being loose, you also are going to have thread that's behaving similar to the too tight, where it's just kind of, it's not wanting to stay where you put it. So it looks like there's a lot more tension on it than it is, but that's because it's also a 4-axis wrap. So that's going to be too loose, because eventually the more that you keep going with this, what's a good example over here? Yeah, you'll be able to just kind of, you could sneeze and that would slide. I am skipping tonight. That's not in line, but whatever. Try to tighten it up. You keep tightening it up. It keeps moving. And then this will happen. And then you'll never be able to get it fixed. See how it skipped over itself? So you don't want to go too loose. And then in this scenario, if you're going too loose, this is going to stretch more over here on this side and also on the other side where it's coming off. Once again, this is not a real good example of too loose, because it was really hard for me to do it too loose. But you shouldn't be able to come back here with your finger and just roll it across and move. That outside thread is probably the best example of how it should not behave. I shouldn't be able to just move my finger across there and do that. So, okay. Going to the tension I use. I don't really know what to say as far as my tension is concerned. I just know that I have learned to focus on it. It's a middle ground between these two extremes that's over here. Obviously, the too tight is not going to work, or it doesn't work at all for me. But being just a little bit, I guess it really is a little bit more tight than what was going on over there. Oop. I can get a line going. I can get one that's good. And that one probably, well, because I'm trying to move all that thread at once and quickly. Having a devil of a time tonight. So see, it is a little bit tighter than the other one. All right. Shits and giggles. Here we go. Get on the line. Get where you are supposed to be, sir. That's the reason why it's important to check the layout beforehand. All right, so, we'll pretend the rest of the wrap is packed. We obviously know it's not. Now, you see the difference in how when I finally get it there, that last thread still is pretty close to its neighbor. That's how it should work, and I should be able to move my finger across it and it not move. The outside thread's kind of toying with getting out there, it's putting his toe in the sand, but it's not moving nearly as much as what's going on over there. Any questions about that? Anything you don't understand? Like I said, it's one of those things where I can show you the extremes of what happens when it's too tight, too loose, and then what I use for tension. If you have questions, ask them. Now is the time.
How well does that thread on the end hold without tape?
What, down here on the turnaround?
Yeah, it doesn't.
What do you mean? You know about down here?
About, yeah.
I mean, as long as I don't screw with it, like intentionally trying to bring it down there, it's going to be fine. The more that it piles up, the more secure it gets. And it's when you're doing your layout threads, sometimes you have to do 2 turns to make sure it doesn't try to slide down. If it's trying to slide down, you cut the corner too short. Just keep going a little bit. And you also want to spread it out some. You can't pile it all on top of each other, because then it'll get to a little mountain and all of a sudden you'll go to put it on top because you've been doing it for 5 or 6 turns and it'll pull the entire thing loose. So don't pile it on top of each other like that. Space it out just a wee bit. But I don't know. I've never tried. I mean, I'm pushing it. I could screw my whole pattern up right now by doing that, but no, who's going to do that? So I can stretch it a little bit too. Greg, you're gonna struggle like crazy to get the patterns to work on the too tight scenario. You could absolutely do it, but I think by the time that you got one line straight or packed, you would have already probably popped like 5 threads. Because that was, or at least I would have, because that was way too tight. And I haven't worked with something like that in a while. Now I can also show you how the thread should behave when it's closed. I still have some tweaking to do on the sugar skull anyways. As the more, remember, like I said earlier, the more threads you add on there, the more that it's going to stretch a little bit. So by the time you get it closed, it's got some tension on it, but if you got loose spots, that's when they're going to pop up like crazy. Okay, now it's checked out. So as you can see over here, that's where the turnaround was on that section. I went all the way up to the real seat. And yes, I did pile it up there, but I started coming back down because I realized it was going to potentially move. All right, so when you get the more threads that you add to the wrap, the harder it is to go back and move the initial ones that go on there. And that's the reason why every time you should be, you know, packing every 5 passes if it's a, you know, single thread pattern. And then on the ones that are like +1s or minus whatever, pack them as needed. Just don't pack your layout threads until they're, you know, if there's a single in the pattern and a plus in the other pattern, wait till the single has at least 5 threads before you mess with it. The only time you should mess with it is after you do the layout threads to make sure they're on their marks. If they're not on their marks, it's kind of pointless because you're going to screw up the whole wrap to begin with. You ain't even started on it and you've already messed up. So, all right. So in this wrap, this is closed. I've got some little, I see some little issues in here. Like, can they see this part that I'm pointing at?
I mean, they can see it, but it ain't so good.
I see some white through that black. So, because right there.
Move your hand. There it is.
All right, so actually this whole line right here has got some white peeking through. On a closed wrap, I should still be able to move threads. And you see what I did there? Open up a gap. I should still be able to go in here and I should be able to move them around as I need to move them. Because you can pack outwards and fix stuff, and that's usually how you get your patterns like super straight. So that closed up that little window, and now it closed up that where I was seeing some of the white poking through. But over here, you see what happened? The blue stretched so much the white started showing through. And over there, so and these are bands. Well, not bands technically, but they're the plus part of the pattern. So some of them are, you know, they have more than 5 threads on them. So to get stuff straightened out and make it look flat and not be able to see colors through it, I sit here and I play with packing variations to get it to look its cleanest. Some people wouldn't do this. You know, it would have been fine for me, but for me, this is something that's like unacceptable for me. If I catch it in time, obviously when I stare at wraps like this all day long, I don't see some stuff until I post pictures and I'm like, oh, that's so freaking bad. But so the triangles here are where they're supposed to be. So what's happening is this last pass of this black, it didn't quite get where it was supposed to be because the one that's underneath of it, you see there's actually 2 there. They're not packed very well. So what I got to do is not hit the light every 2 seconds. Is come in here and move that thread over. And get tension on it. That other one's not wanting to stay put. There.
How much time did that wrap take you?
This one?
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about it. I did the first wrap in 10 hours that I cut off, but I couldn't. I know I've been working on this on and off for a week. It's probably been close to 20 hours for both of these because they're both over 20 inches. Okay.
Focus.
Is it focused?
Yeah, it's on the wrapper.
Goodness gracious, babe.
There it goes.
Okay, I'm going to try not to screw with the camera. So after a little bit of convincing and moving around here, I'm happier with what's going on there. But see what I did over here? I ended up moving some stuff. So I'm just going back through. I'm going back through and I'm making sure that I didn't overpack my threads because I have a tendency to do that because I squeeze in one more. And you can take your tool and press it down. And ta-da! It's fixed. That's just the little stuff. I'm trying to make it a point this year to be able to fix all this kind of stuff instead of just going, ah, crap, I forgot. Oh, well. So you should still be able to move threads around pretty easily, even when it's finished. Even though my philosophy, and a lot of guys in the group have started saying it now, which is funny, you can always fit one more thread. I don't care what pass you're on. You can always squeeze in one more thread, and that really helps sometimes with bleeding or even getting the pattern to close perfectly. But it's definitely not stuff when you're first learning to do this. Like, don't overanalyze this kind of stuff like I'm doing right now, because you're going to drive yourself mad. Okay, my first few wraps, my first 5 probably. I mean, the first one was your typical first wrap, woo, I freaking did it. Pattern was too small. It was way too crazy colors, but I did it. And the more I kept working with it, the more I started to experiment. And this experimentation is what got me where I'm doing this kind of stuff now. Just trying stuff. When I first put this one down there, I didn't know it was going to work. In fact, I hated it halfway through, but now I'm like, ooh, fun stuff. But don't stress over the small details like that in the very beginning, because, if somebody came right out the gate, 6 months they've been working on stuff, and like their third wrap looked like this.
You need to find another hobby.
I wouldn't even, with stuff that you can see, obviously here, I'm pointing out stuff that's wrong with it. There's a wide open seam there. This line's actually not touching that white line. That needs to get adjusted. That seam kind of goes wonk up and down. That kind of stuff, if somebody did this on their like third or fourth, even like their 6th wrap, I'd be like, took me 5 years to do that crap. But that'd be awesome if somebody has that kind of talent. So we got a 2-minute warning. We're going to start trying to like wrap these up so they don't end up being 2 hours, so that we can actually load them onto YouTube. So we're going to give you a 2-minute warning. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, ask away. If we don't get any questions in 2 minutes, then we'll say goodnight. Greg, it's only 1 meter long. It is ridiculous. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do not try to do this at home. This was the biggest pain in my butt. And I don't know. I mean, I know why I did it, because I don't want to have any trim bands when I put my grips on. But I don't recommend it. Hey, Jimmy. You're welcome, Ron. I will say one last thing. If you do your wraps too loose and you put CP and epoxy on them, they're going to curl up and you'll end up with bubbles that won't be repairable. You'll have to slice the whole thing and start over. If you do it too tight, depending on how tight you did it, if you add any liquid to it, it's going to stretch, because once the thread is going to soak up the liquid, it's going to grow a little bit more, and then when it relaxes, when it's dry, it gets loose. What do you mean, Greg? Should you leave what you see sit overnight? Do you understand that? Yeah, me too, Chuck. I have no idea what I got the wrap on there, and now I've got to figure out grip choice. Thinking leather, I really want to incorporate lace somewhere into this thing. Somewhere. Be really cool to pull off some leather and lace grips, but I'm still debating how to work that. Somebody suggested earlier in the day that I put a clear acrylic on them. I'm like, ugh. It's not really with the theme. Of course, leather and lace isn't either. It's kind of like the flirtatious sugar skull. Are you talking like the little arrows that you might see in the wrap, Stanley? I see more like you did when you revisit. Oh, well, I mean, that's up to you. That's one thing. If it takes you a while, I forgot to say this earlier, if it takes you a while to finish a wrap, it's not that big of a deal. But if you have your tape on the, like on the tape anchors, and you let it sit in an environment where it gets hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold all the time, the double-sided sticky tape will lose its tackiness, and you'll start losing the last few threads that you popped on there. I found that out the hard way. If you let it sit, like Greg's suggesting, you know, so you can see any of those little flaws and stuff, because when you come back to it with fresh eyes or you take a picture of it, you can actually notice more. Everybody's level of acceptability is different, so I'm gonna point out more stuff that most of you guys probably don't notice than somebody else that's just beginning, because you don't know what to look for. But if you're gonna let it sit overnight, if you're gonna use the double-sided sticky tape, put masking tape or painter's tape over the top of the threads that you ended on, so they don't have a chance to come loose. And you can let it sit there for as long as you want. Just get CP on it as soon as you can. But if you put CP on it after the first coat, your chances of moving stuff around diminish very quickly. And on the third coat, forget it. Well, second coat, forget it. It's pretty much done.
Last question from Chuck.
Why is it called a sugar skull? It is called a sugar skull because that is the theme, the idea behind this build. I saw her. Can I see that in the video?
Yep.
I saw her on Pinterest one night when I was just, scrolling through. I have this thing for skulls anyways. Sugar skulls are just the less creepy version of them. But, Dia de still, I can't even say it. The Day of the Dead celebrations, like, it's a really important thing. It's really cool, them celebrating life on that day. But anyway, so I saw her and I thought, wow, her hair is what really intrigued me. If you guys really pay attention to what's going on in the wrap, the hair intrigued me so much that I really wanted to recreate that fade, which is where that blue-green fade came from. So I saw that and I said, I'm going to do a sugar skull. That's be freaking cool. And that's what happened with this wrap. I picked this pattern because it looks really cool, but it also, if you really kind of get creative with your head, it kind of looks like a flower. Flower in the center with like the leaves, the fading out. That's kind of where my head went with it. And white was a secondary color because if I can figure it out, I have this idea of being able to recreate little tiny skulls to be placed on those white diamonds, but I don't know yet. So that's why it's called a sugar skull wrap, because this is going to be a sugar skull rod. And yes, that's kind of how I do my builds. They always have some kind of idea behind them. It doesn't even have to be what the guy ordered, but it has to be it has to be related to something in some way for me. Like the duck challenge wrap, that will always be the duck challenge. And I recreated the fade that was on part of the duck's neck now that I know it's a mandarin duck. Thanks, DJ. And I did that on that wrap. So anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Nope.
There's some, but we'll go back and answer them.
What are they?
I've been using the color fast thread several ways. So-called already color preserved. Is it trustworthy, or would you still see it?
What?
Max Morrison
Yeah.
said, I've been using the color fast thread, so-called already color preserved. Is it trustworthy, or would you still CP it?
For the color fast thread, I haven't used it, but if it's NCP or color fast thread, you shouldn't have to CP it unless you just want to. It's not going to hurt it, especially on a decorative wrap. You know, the CP keeps the epoxy from soaking all the way through to the blank, so you just double treating the thread. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and end this. Try to have an early one tonight. You guys enjoy it. Hope it helped with something. If you think of any questions, just put them on the comment section and we'll discuss it. But I hope you guys have a great night. Happy St. Patty's Day, and we'll talk later.